So we did the MCU ranking about a week or two ago, so this just feels like the natural progression. What is up, everyone, and welcome to Men vs. Movies. I'm Griffin, as always, and today, in honor of the release of Justice League this week/weekend, I'm going to be giving you my ranking of all 5/6 films in the DC Extended Universe. There have been 5 releases, but I'm going to be including the Batman vs. Superman. But I'm also going to be including the Batman vs. Superman Ultimate Edition in this list. It just feels like it deserves to be there in its own right. So that's the way this whole thing is going to go down. I'm going to give you my rankings starting from the worst, working our way up to the best. Hopefully you all enjoy it, and be sure to leave your rankings in the comment section below. I'm very curious as to what you all think. So the DC Extended Universe has been kind of a mixed bag critically. I happen to think they've had more successes than bombs, so, it's just kind of how you interpret the films. Each film seems to garner a different impression from different people, so the DCEU definitely hasn't been as consistent, I guess you could say. But that's neither here nor there, so let's just dive into this and rank these bad boys, starting with number 6. Coming in at number 6 should come as no surprise, we're talking about Suicide Squad. Now, I will say, the first time I saw this film, I actually found it quite enjoyable. I really liked the characters. I thought the casting was spot on. Will Smith as Deadshot is perfection, along with Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I even didn't really mind Jared Leto's portrayal of the Joker, although that's kind of decreased in appreciation as I've watched it more and more. But the real problem with this movie is that it's a mess. Parts of it feel like it was edited by a trailer company as mandated by the studio, and it doesn't feel like David Ayer's vision was fully realized. Plus, if you dig into the production problems with this film, David Ayer really only had about 6 weeks to write the script, and you can tell the story is not very good. It's not very fleshed out. The villain sucks. Enchantress is an awful villain who just likes to do this. And overall, the movie just ends up being a giant disappointment. There's great moments in there. I love the interaction between the team, but we really don't get a whole lot from each of the members. And it just kind of jumps around in a jarring way. And just on rewatch, it just doesn't hold up as much as it did that first time I watched it, where I could kind of forgive some of the missteps. But yeah, Suicide Squad, definitely a misfire for the DCEU. I really have no desire to ever watch it again. All right, now coming in at number 5 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the theatrical cut. Now, it's important that I specify theatrical cut because I have very different opinions on the theatrical cut and the Ultimate Edition, as we'll get to a little bit later. But the big problem with the theatrical cut of BVS is that it's butchered to hell. There's great ideas in here. I loved that they were going for kind of like a Watchmen-esque type story. We're diving deeper into Superman, even though you don't really get that in the theatrical cut. We see how the Battle of Metropolis really affected not only the people of Metropolis, but the whole world. Superman's arrival is there. And just in general, it's very ambitious in what it's trying to do, and I respect it for that. But ultimately, the theatrical cut is just really jarring. The story doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's overly convoluted. The whole Africa scene that kind of sets the stage for Lex Luthor's ultimate plan doesn't make any sense, and it's very hard to follow. And as you see in the Ultimate Cut, there's actually some crucial pieces of information that go on down there that we don't really get to. So just overall, BVS is the perfect example of some studio interference, much like with Suicide Squad, only not to the extent of Suicide Squad. This movie was about a 3-hour-long epic, and you could definitely tell that they cut it down and they cut out the wrong parts. So I give it props. I do enjoy it, the theatrical cut, but I have to say, when you compare it to the Ultimate Cut, it just... man, it really is not as good. Coming in at number 4 is Justice League, the most recent release in the DCEU. Now, I gotta say, I had a lot of fun with Justice League. I think the perfect way to describe it is as if a Justice League animated film was brought to the big screen with live-action heroes. The characters are great. I think the acting across the board is terrific. I love the interactions between the League, and there's definitely some nice character moments as well. Tack on some fun action scenes and some great fan service, and just overall, it's fun, disposable entertainment, at least in my opinion. The problems with the movie is that it never dives too deep into one person or into certain arcs that need to be fleshed out more. You can definitely tell that the movie feels very rushed, and it suffers from its 2-hour-long runtime. This is a movie that should have been maybe 2 hours and 20 minutes. We're introducing 3 new characters here that we've never even spent time with before, and we don't really learn that much about them throughout the course of the film. We get a taste for their personalities, we get little vignettes of their arcs, but we don't really know them, I guess. Tack on some bad CGI as well. Henry Cavill's CGI'd upper lip is definitely a very jarring experience. And Steppenwolf is just a bad villain. I mean, there's really no beating around the bush with it. It's forgivable in this instance because the focus should be on the team, and that is the shining moment in this. But overall, I just think that Justice League suffers from being rushed. We don't dive too deep into really anything. Everything's very surface level. It feels very light, not only in tone, but in substance as well. And so it's perfectly fine to watch, but it's not one that really stuck with me. All right, now moving on to the top 3 here. So this is what I should say about the top 3. The top 3 films in here I absolutely love. I love all 3 of these films. In fact, I find them to be some of the more ambitious and bold films we've ever gotten throughout the comic book genre. But unfortunately, we gotta rank them, so let's start with number 3. Now, number 3 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the extended edition. Now, much like what I was saying with the theatrical cut, I love that BVS is a very ambitious, daring, dramatic, intense superhero epic. I will go as far as to say it's an epic. What the Ultimate Edition does so well is that we get to see more of Superman. The story goes from being a Batman story with Superman in it to a Superman story with a lot of Batman. And it ends up working for me in the end because the payoff is there. When Superman sacrifices himself, you feel that impact. Not to mention, it's just great to see Clark going around as a journalist trying to take down the Batman. And the thing that I love about this movie is that it treats the heroes as gods. We get a little bit of that in Man of Steel for sure, but in this movie, Superman is presented as a god, which is what he should be presented as because the guy has powers unlike anything everyone's ever seen before. There's a great montage where they show Superman saving everyone, and that really showcases how good he is to people and how people view him as such a godlike figure, for lack of a better term. Not getting too specific, but they really do tackle some heavy political and dramatic themes that, like I mentioned with the theatrical cut, is very reminiscent of Watchmen, I will go out there and say. And I guess the thing that the ultimate cut does better than the theatrical cut is it just expands on everything. The scenes have time to breathe. We finally understand what's going down during that whole Africa mess that occurred in the theatrical cut. Lex Luthor comes across as a much more brilliant antagonist than he did in the original one. Lois Lane actually serves more of a purpose than just being this kind of annoying figure that popped up for random reasons. Her arc actually makes sense throughout the course of the movie. The editing isn't as jarring, and just all of this contributes to BVS, the Ultimate Edition, being a truly great superhero epic, which is what I refer to it as. I think if more people were to watch the Ultimate Edition, and if the Ultimate Edition were to be released in theaters, that we may be looking at some different reception here. Sure, the film has some flaws, and the whole Martha thing probably wouldn't stick with some people, but I think on the whole, the Ultimate Edition really does fix a lot of the major problems with BVS. All right, the top 2. This is so difficult, and really, this is a last-minute decision for the placement of them. Coming in at number 2, and it pains me to do this, but it is Man of Steel. Man of Steel is probably in my top 5 or top 10 favorite comic book films at all time. It completely reinvented the character of Superman, played brilliantly by Henry Cavill. What I love about this movie is that there's a lot of introspective reflecting going on in Superman's life. We figure out how he became the way he is, and we see his internal struggle of trying to decide whether he should be the hero that the world needs or whether he should stay hidden. Are these people going to accept him? And seeing Superman tackle those issues that we've never seen tackled in a Superman film before was brilliant. It almost brings him down onto our level for this instance. He humanizes him, which some people may like, some people may not like. But I think for an origin film, it's important to at least humanize the character a little bit, dive into their psyche, and just figure out what makes them tick. What is the struggle with them? And then not to mention that brilliant opening on Krypton is one of the most epic pieces in a superhero film. Russell Crowe shines. The music by Hans Zimmer is incredible. That whole sequence was phenomenal. General Zod is a very compelling villain. You understand his motivations, and I think that he was a great first villain for Superman. Michael Shannon did a great job. A lot of people bash on the overly destructive final fight scene, but if you think about it, that's Superman's first day on the job, so that kind of thing is gonna happen, so I can't really complain about it too much. In my head, it just made sense. And then just lastly, Hans Zimmer's score is flawless. This is probably one of the best scores I have ever heard, and I would go as far as to say it's one of Hans Zimmer's best score, if not his best. He reinvented Superman's theme while still keeping the core aesthetic and feel to it, so I love that about the score. Man of Steel is one of the greatest comic book films ever made. I can't praise it enough. And coming in at number 1, which will probably be the case for most people, is Wonder Woman. This is just a triumph of a film. Not only does it give messages of hope and positivity, but this is the first time that we've seen a female superhero lead a film, and Gal Gadot is flawless and perfect as Diana Prince / Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins just did an incredible job directing this film. There's phenomenal action, there's phenomenal acting, there's great character moments. Diana struggling with whether or not she should protect humanity, her naivety at the beginning of the film, and just her whole arc as a character is incredibly powerful. Chris Pine has phenomenal chemistry with Gal, and the two of them, they're so electric on screen together. I actually happen to think that this is one of Chris Pine's best performances, period. Everything that happens on Themyscira is awesome, great world building here, and I loved that it took place during World War I. The time period just fits so well. And I have to say, this movie has one of the most emotional scenes and powerful moments I've ever seen in a film in general, and that is the crossing of no man's land. The music, the slow motion, the impactfulness and what that scene meant is unmatched by a lot of things that I've seen. And so for that reason alone, this movie earns its place like in the top 3 on this list. And overall, Wonder Woman is just an incredible movie. You can watch it just about at any time. It's fun, it's emotional, and you just have a good time and feel good about yourself leaving the theater. And that's it, guys. That is my ranking of all 5 or 6, in my opinion, films in the DCEU. Remember, like I said at the beginning, leave your rankings in the comments section below. And as always, guys, if you like this video, be sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more movie reviews, movie-related content, and our James Bond podcast, The Words Are Not Enough. You can also like Men vs. Movies on Facebook and follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men v Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that is going to do it for this ranking video, guys, and until next time, take care.